of these songs was written by a man who just lost his child. One was recorded by an artist who knew he was dying. And one of them, the one everybody thinks they know, was actually written about something completely different. You've heard these songs your whole life, but you've never heard the truth behind them. These are not just sad songs. They are real stories, real loss, real pain that somebody turned into music because they had no other way to survive it.
And ask me your questions. Now let's go back.
And once you know what was really happening behind these records, you will never hear them the same way again. This is the top 10 heartbreaking rock songs that will make you cry, and the untold stories that make them hit even harder. Number 10, Tears for Fears, and then Gary Jules. Mad World.
No expression.
This is the song that finds you at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep and you don't even know why you're sad. You're just sitting there in the quiet, and this comes on, and suddenly everything you've been pushing down all week starts rising up. That piano, that voice barely above a whisper. It doesn't demand anything from you, it just sits next to you, like it understands.
The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had.
Facts and context. The original was written by Roland Orzabal when he was just 18 years old. 18. Released in 1982 on Tears for Fears' debut album, The Hurting on Mercury Records, produced by Chris Hughes. The song is about looking out at the world and feeling completely disconnected from it, watching people rush around, go through their routines, and chase things that don't matter, and feeling like you're the only one who notices how hollow it all is. That feeling. At 18 years old, he put it into music that still resonates 40 years later. Then in 2001, Gary Jules and Michael Andrews stripped it all the way back, just piano and voice, for the Donnie Darko soundtrack. That version was released as a single in 2003 and became the UK Christmas #1.
Oh, you find it hard to take when people run in circles.
A song about emptiness and alienation. Christmas #1, the irony of that is almost poetic. Michael Andrews recorded the piano arrangement in his home studio. No big label budget, no fancy equipment, just a simple, honest reimagining that accidentally became one of the most downloaded songs of that entire year in the UK. Sometimes the smallest productions leave the biggest marks. Why it's underrated, the original Tears for Fears version gets overshadowed almost entirely by the Jules cover now. Most people under 40 don't even know Tears for Fears wrote it. That erasure of the original is genuinely unfair because Roland Orzabal's teenage version has a raw, anxious energy that the stripped-back cover doesn't have.
Listen, sit and listen.
They're two completely different emotional experiences. Both deserve your full attention. This song is proof that real feeling doesn't age.
Dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had.
Whether it's 1982 or 2003 or today, that emptiness Orzabal described at 18 is something every generation understands, and that's both beautiful and deeply sad. Number 9 is simpler. 2 verses, A Dying Man, and one of the most covered songs in rock history, written in about the time it takes to play it. Number 9, Bob Dylan, Knockin' on Heaven's Door. There is something about this song that feels ancient, like it existed before Dylan wrote it and he just found it somewhere and wrote it down. You could play this at a funeral and it would be perfect. You could play it on a Sunday morning with coffee and it would be perfect. It belongs to every sad moment simultaneously. That's not something you can manufacture. That's something you either have or you don't. Facts and Context, released in 1973 on Columbia Records as part of the Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid soundtrack. Written specifically for the film, for the scene where a sheriff is dying. Dylan wrote it to capture that exact moment when a man feels life leaving him and just wants to put down the weight. The badge, the guns, the responsibility, everything, just let it go. Oh, it's 2 verses and a chorus. That's it. And it became one of the most covered songs in all of rock history. Eric Clapton, Guns N' Roses, Avril Lavigne, hundreds of versions across every decade since. The Guns N' Roses version from 1990 introduced it to an entirely new generation who had never seen the film and had no idea it was written for a dying cowboy in a Western. Dylan reportedly wrote this incredibly quickly, almost in the time it takes to perform it. There was no long labored process, no dozens of rewrites. The simplicity was intentional and immediate, and that instinct to leave space, to not over-explain, is exactly why it has lasted longer than almost anything else he ever wrote.
I can't use it anymore.
Why it's underrated, it's not forgotten, but it is misunderstood. Most people who love this song have never seen the film it was written for. And they don't know the image Dylan had in his head when he wrote it. A specific man in a specific moment dying in the dust. Knowing that context changes the song completely. It stops being a general anthem and becomes something painfully specific. A man letting go, that's all it ever was. Coming up at number 8, a song that starts with a piano line its writer taught himself to play backwards, and a music video that will genuinely shake you if you've never seen it. Number 7 has been making people cry since 1965, over 2,000 cover versions, and still only one version truly matters. Number 8, Coldplay, The Scientist.
Oh, let's go back to the start.
You know that feeling when you've hurt someone you love and you're sitting there trying to figure out exactly where it went wrong? Running it back in your head, analyzing every moment, trying to find the logical explanation for something that was never logical to begin with. This song is that feeling, completely. And the cruel thing about it is, the more you analyze, the further from the answer you get. Chris Martin knew that, and he wrote it down.
It's such a shame for us to part.
Facts and Context released November 2002 on the album A Rush of Blood to the Head on Parlophone Records, produced by Ken Nelson and Coldplay. The song is about a man who tries to approach love and loss the way a scientist approaches a problem, with logic, with analysis, and slowly realizes that the heart doesn't work that way.
Pulling the puzzles apart.
That you cannot think your way back to someone. The piano line is one of the most recognizable in modern rock. Martin has said in interviews that he was influenced by George Harrison when writing it, specifically the feel of Harrison's solo work. The music video is visually stunning, and the entire story plays in reverse from the aftermath of a car accident back to the beginning of the relationship.
Nobody said it was easy.
It won multiple MTV VMA nominations and became one of the defining visual pieces of early 2000s rock. Chris Martin taught himself to play the piano intro backwards first. He physically learned the notes in reverse order, then flipped it. That's why the melody has that slightly disorienting, dreamlike quality, like a memory you're trying to hold on to that keeps slipping. It wasn't an accident. He engineered that feeling deliberately, which is why it's underrated. Coldplay took so much critical criticism in the 2000s. It's called soft, called derivative, called too emotional for rock purists, that some people dismissed this song without ever really sitting with it. That's a loss. Because underneath the clean production and the polished sound is a genuinely devastating piece of writing about the limits of the human mind when it comes up against real heartbreak. Rock purists who skipped this missed something important. Number 7 has been making people cry since 1965. Over 2,000 cover versions, and still only one version truly matters. Number 7, The Beatles. Yesterday.
All my trouble.
Imagine waking up one morning and a complete song is just there. In your head, fully formed. Melody, mood, everything. You reach for it like it's real, and for a moment you're convinced you must have heard it somewhere before. That's exactly what happened. And what came out of that morning became the most covered song in recorded music history. Just a man, a guitar, and regret so pure it hurts.
Not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow.
Facts and Context, released August 1965 in the UK on the album Help on Parlophone Records. Produced by George Martin at Abbey Road Studios, written entirely by Paul McCartney. None of the other Beatles play on it, just Paul's vocal, his acoustic guitar, and a string quartet arranged by George Martin. That was unprecedented for the Beatles at the time.
For yesterday.
The lyrics are about loss and regret. Simple, devastating, timeless. I said something wrong, and now I long for yesterday. According to Guinness World Records, over 2,200 versions have been officially recorded. It has been played on radio more than any other song in history. And yet every single time you hear McCartney's original, something in you goes quiet.
I said something wrong now.
McCartney was so convinced he had unconsciously stolen the melody from somewhere that he spent weeks playing it to everyone he knew. Fellow musicians, friends, producers, asking if they recognized it. Nobody did. It was completely original. He had simply dreamed something perfect and woken up with it. That doesn't happen to people, except it did. Once.
I believe in yesterday.
Why it's underrated, it hasn't been forgotten, but it has been heard so many times that people have stopped listening. It became wallpaper. Background music in waiting rooms and TV commercials, and that familiarity has stolen something from it. If you can find a way to hear it fresh, really fresh, it will floor you. The simplicity is not a limitation. It is the entire point. Number 6, refused to be a single, refused to have a video, and became one of the most requested rock songs of its era anyway, purely because listeners demanded it. Number 6, Pearl Jam, Black. This is the song for anyone who has ever watched someone they loved completely move on. Not dramatically, not with a big scene, just quietly. Living their life, happy. While you are still in pieces, somewhere wondering how they managed it, this song doesn't shout about that pain, it just describes it. Plainly, honestly, like someone sitting across from you saying, "Yeah, I know. Me too." Facts and Context, released in 1991 on the album 10 on Epic Records, recorded at London Bridge Studio in Seattle, produced by Rick Parashar and Pearl Jam, written by Eddie Vedder and Stone Gossard. The song is about the aftermath of a relationship ending, specifically that specific agony of watching someone you were completely devoted to simply continue living without you in their world. Vedder has said the emotion in the vocal was completely real and completely in the moment. You can hear that every breath, every pause. The song was never released as a commercial single because Vedder refused. He felt making a video would cheapen what the song was. Radio stations played it anyway, based solely on listener phone calls and requests. It became one of the most played rock songs of the early 90s without a single dollar of formal promotion behind it. At Pearl Jam concerts, when this song starts, Something shifts in the room. People who are singing along stop singing. They just listen. Even after hearing it hundreds of times, that reaction, that involuntary silence, is one of the rarest things a live song can produce. It means the song has gone past entertainment into something else entirely. Why it's underrated, it hasn't been forgotten by fans, but it gets critically underanalyzed compared to louder, more aggressive Pearl Jam tracks. Rock criticism of the 90s often rewarded anger and volume over vulnerability. Black is vulnerable completely. And that vulnerability was sometimes mistaken for weakness by people who didn't understand that it takes far more courage to be this open than to scream. Number 5 is about a woman whose single tear changed music history, and whose passing in 2023 made this song feel completely different forever. Number 5, Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You.
Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want.
Vibe and scene setting, just her face, that's all. No dancers, no production, no distractions, just a shaved head, green eyes, and a voice that reached through the screen and grabbed you by the collar. You couldn't look away, you couldn't think about anything else. And then that tear, one single tear running down her cheek, and the whole world stopped for a second.
'Cause nothing compares.
Facts and Context, written by Prince. Originally recorded by his side project The Family in 1985, but largely unheard, Sinead O'Connor recorded her version in 1990 for the album I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got on Ensign Records, produced by Sinead and Nellie Hooper. It went to number 1 in over a dozen countries simultaneously. The music video, directed by John Mayberry, is considered one of the greatest ever made. The song is about the raw, disorienting grief of losing someone, that gaping hole where a person used to be, nothing filling it, nothing even coming close. That tear was real. In interviews, Sinead revealed that during filming, she was not thinking about a romantic relationship. She was thinking about her mother, who had died years earlier. The camera caught genuine grief by accident. What the whole world saw as heartbreak over a lover was actually a daughter missing her mom. That realization changes everything about what you're watching. I mentioned at the start of this video that one of these songs was actually written about something completely different from what everyone thinks. This is that moment. Nothing Compares to You belongs to Sinead O'Connor in the public imagination, but it was written by Prince. And the relationship between those two facts, between the writer and the performer Kyle Ta, was not simple.
I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? Guess what?
Prince reportedly had strong feelings about what Sinead did with his song. There are different versions of the story. Some accounts suggest Prince was unhappy with aspects of her arrangement and her public persona. In interviews over the years, various people connected to both artists have described tension between them, though the exact details were never fully aired publicly by either side in a definitive way.
Your baby was sometimes hard.
What is documented is that the song's success put Sinead at the absolute center of the music world in 1990. And everything that came with that, the attention, the pressure, the scrutiny, ultimately became part of a story much bigger than any single record. Now, Sinead O'Connor spent the rest of her career fighting an industry and a public that wanted her to be something she wasn't. She refused.
Nothing compares to you.
Every single time, the music industry in 1990 was not ready for a woman who shaved her head, spoke her mind, challenged authority, and didn't dress the way they wanted her to dress. She paid a real commercial price for that authenticity. Doors closed, Opportunities disappeared, and the same world that made her #1 single-handedly decided she was too difficult and moved on, but the song didn't move on, the song stayed. And when Sinead O'Connor passed away in July 2023, the entire world went back to that video, that face, that tear, and understood, and perhaps for the first time fully, that what they had been watching all along was one of the bravest performances in the history of popular music.
Living with you, baby, was sometimes hard.
She wasn't performing grief, she was living it on camera, in front of the world, without apology. That's why this song isn't just music, it's history. #4 will make you put your phone down and call someone you haven't spoken to in too long. I promise you that. #4, Harry Chapin, Cats in the Cradle.
Catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking.
This is the one that doesn't just make you cry, it makes you do something. It makes you put the phone down, walk out of the room, and call somebody, a parent, a child, a friend you've been meaning to get back to for months. It holds a mirror up to you, and it doesn't flinch. And neither can you. This song has ended arguments and started conversations and repaired relationships. That's not something music does often. This one does it every time.
My son turned 10 just the other day.
Facts and Context, released October 1974 on the album Verities, and Balderdash on Elektra Records, produced by Paul Lika, written by Harry Chapin and his wife Sandra Chapin, hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song tells the complete arc of a father-son relationship, a father too busy for his young son, and then a son who grows up to be exactly the same.
Good time, man.
The circle closes, nobody wins. The final verse is almost unbearable when it lands. Sandra Chapin wrote the original poem that became the song's foundation and has said publicly that she wrote it partly as a commentary on Harry's own relationship with time and family. He took that poem, looked himself in the mirror, and turned it into music.
And he said with a smile, what I'd really like that is to borrow the car keys. See you.
That takes a particular kind of honest courage. Harry Chapin was one of the most dedicated philanthropists in rock history. He co-founded a hunger relief organization and was actively working toward having it recognized at a governmental level when he died. He was driving to a benefit concert, one he wasn't even being paid for, when his car was struck by a truck on July 16, 1981. He was 38 years old.
Together then, Dad, you know we'll have a good time then.
A man who sang about not having enough time for the people who matter ran out of time himself. That parallel is one of the most heartbreaking coincidences in rock history. Why it's underrated Harry Chapin was never a critical darling. Rock critics of the 70s often dismissed him as too folky, too sentimental, too straightforward. The sophistication they missed was that his storytelling was surgical.
You know we'll have a good time then.
Every word earned its place. This song in particular is a masterclass in narrative economy. You get an entire lifetime in 4 minutes. That is not simple, that is extraordinary. He deserved far more than he got from the industry. And the fact that his legacy rests primarily on one song, when his catalog is full of moments this powerful, is a conversation that rock music still hasn't finished having. #3 is 3 songs in one. 3 separate tragedies, one young man, and a recording that still doesn't sound like it should exist. #3, James Taylor, Fire and Rain.
And I wrote down this song.
The first time you really listen to this song, and I mean really listen, not just hear it in the background, something shifts, because you realize fairly quickly that this is not a breakup song. This is not a general sadness song. This is a specific man describing specific pain in real time. 3 separate tragedies, layered on top of each other, delivered in a voice so calm and gentle, it almost hides how devastating the content actually is. Almost.
I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end.
Facts and Context, released September 1970 on the album Sweet Baby James on Warner Brothers Records. Produced by Peter Asher, the song has 3 distinct verses, and each one is about something different. The first verse is about his close friend, Suzanne Schneer, who died by suicide. And his bandmates knew about her death for months while Taylor was recording in London, and they kept it from him.
Another day, my body's aching.
He found out later. That verse is him processing that delayed grief. The second verse is about his time spent in a psychiatric institution. The third is about his struggle with heroin addiction. 3 layers of personal devastation written by a man in his early 20s. It reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1970. For a song carrying this much weight, that commercial success is remarkable.
An easy time with my back turned towards the sun.
But the weight is exactly why people couldn't stop playing it. James Taylor has confirmed all 3 interpretations in interviews across several decades. He has never hidden what the song is about. And that transparency, that willingness to say yes, this is exactly what it means, is part of what makes him one of the most trusted voices in American music. He didn't write metaphors to protect himself. He wrote the truth and put his name on it.
I've seen sunny days that I thought would.
Why it's underrated, it hasn't been forgotten exactly, but it has been softened by time and radio familiarity into something that people think of as gentle background music. It is not background music, it is a document of survival, of a young man who went through things that would have ended most people and chose to write about them instead of disappearing.
I thought I'd see you one more time again.
That deserves to be treated with reverence every single time it plays. Number 2, a father, a window, New York City, and a guitar player who found a song too painful to perform for years after he recorded it. Number 2, Eric Clapton, Tears in Heaven.
And carry on, 'cause
I need you to understand something before this entry starts. This is not a metaphor. This is not a poetic device. This is not an artist reaching for emotional depth through imagination. This song is real. Every single word of it is real, and once you fully absorb what it is and where it came from, you will never be able to hear it as just a song again. It stops being music and becomes something else entirely. Something sacred. Facts and Context, released February 1992. First appeared on the Rush film soundtrack, then on Clapton's live album Unplugged on Reprise Records. Co-written with Will Jennings, produced by Russ Titleman. In March 1991, Clapton's 4-year-old son, Connor, fell from an open window on the 53rd floor of a New York City apartment building. He died.
in heaven, I'll find.
Clapton has described writing this song as part of his grieving process, a way of asking whether he would know his son in another life, whether they would recognize each other, whether there was somewhere beyond this world where that reunion was possible. It won 3 Grammy Awards in 1993, including Record of the Year and Song of the Year. It reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Clapton stopped performing this song live for a period of years. He has said in interviews that there came a point where singing it became too painful, that the distance between him and the grief hadn't grown wide enough yet. He eventually returned to performing it. But the fact that one of the greatest guitarists who ever lived found a song too painful to play tells you everything about the magnitude of what this record contains.
Begging, please.
Why it's underrated, it is not forgotten, but it is sometimes reduced to a Grammy statistic or a soft rock radio staple in ways that strip the humanity from it. People hear it and think, Oh, that Clapton song. Without pausing to fully absorb what they are actually listening to, a father wrote this about his dead child. That requires more than passive listening. It requires you to stop, to really be present with it. If you've never done that, do it just once, properly. It will change you. And now, number 1, the song that belonged to one artist then was handed, and whether he intended to or not, to another, and became something neither of them could have predicted, a testament to an entire life, recorded by a man who knew his time was running short.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Number 1, Johnny Cash, Hurt.
The needle tears the hole.
There are moments in music where everything lines up perfectly. The right song, the right voice, the right moment in a life, and what comes out of that alignment is not just a recording, it's a document, a testimony, something that future generations will study not just as music, but as evidence of what it means to be human and mortal and honest about both. This is that moment, this is the one. And I don't think anything in rock music has ever come close to what Johnny Cash did with this song.
My empire of dirt.
Facts and context, originally written by Trent Reznor and recorded by 9 Inch Nails for the 1994 album The Downward Spiral on Nothing Records, produced by Trent Reznor. The original is a brutal, industrial, unflinching look at addiction, self-destruction, and the terrifying emptiness at the center of it all. Wise, it was already a great song.
Liar's chair, full of broken.
Then in 2002, when producer Rick Rubin brought Johnny Cash into the studio to record his version for the album American 4, the man comes around on Lost Highway Records. Cash was 71 years old. He was in declining health. His wife, June Carter Cash, was seriously ill beside him, and Rick Rubin pointed a camera at this man and essentially said, "Show us everything." The music video used footage of Cash's life, his youth, his career, his awards gathering dust, his body failing.
Have I become my
And Cash sitting alone at a table with his hands around a glass, looking back at everything. June Carter. Cash watched the finished music video and said, "It's the most honest thing I've ever seen." That was her response. Not the most beautiful, not the most moving, the most honest. June died in May 2003. Johnny Cash died 4 months later in September 2003. He was 71 years old.
goes away in the end.
And Trent Reznor, the man who wrote the song, who had poured his own darkness into every note of it, watched Cash's version and said in an interview, "That song isn't mine anymore." He meant it as the highest possible compliment. He was right, it wasn't his anymore, it belonged to everyone.
If I could start again.
Why it's underrated, it is not forgotten. But the 9 Inch Nails original gets lost in the conversation about this song, and that's not entirely fair either. Reznor wrote something real, something honest from his own darkness. The fact that Cash transformed it doesn't diminish what Reznor built. Both versions deserve your full attention.
Let's find a way.
Together, they tell a complete story. A young man drowning in addiction and pain, and an old man looking back at a long life and reckoning with what it all meant. Youth and age, beginning and end, both staring at the same void from opposite sides. This song is #1 because nothing else on this list, nothing in rock music, captures the full weight of a human life looking back at itself with complete honesty. No performance, no pretense, just a man at the end of his road telling you exactly what he sees. That's not music. That's courage.